What's going on, guys? It's me, Jace, and welcome back to the channel. We're going to be doing Mock Draft 2.0 today. I love the feedback on 1.0, the comments, people's opinions on their teams and things like that. I thought that part was fun. I'm always up for the banter and the debate, but I just asked that we keep it respectful. Because we're just debating players here. It's not that serious. So, but yeah, so we're going to jump into it with mock draft 2.0 because a lot has changed in this mock draft. And I really teased a lot of what 2.0 would look like back on 1.0. And so a lot has changed, but nothing's changed with the top two picks as we kick off the draft here with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Of course, they're going to go ahead and select Aiden Hutchinson, the defensive end out of Michigan. I think he's a franchise player. I think he can come in and he can be your Myles Garrett. He can be your Joey Bosa. He can be your bookend defensive end and go out and get double-digit sacks every year. So the Lions, though, are going to keep their guy as well, which is Kayvon Thibodeaux. And I made some comments about the Lions. The people in the comments are very upset with me. Your team lost 13 games. Whether you lose them closely or you get blown out, it's still 13 games. You're picking second in the draft with your original pick. You were not a good football team. You were not. And that's okay. You have good pieces. And I talked about that in 1.0 with hitting on Penei Sewell and Aleem McNeil and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Don't get it twisted. I gave Brad Holmes his credit, right? I gave them their credit. But they also lost 13 football games. Regardless. So you have to get better. I think every GM is lying, though, at this point in time. So to hear Kayvon Thibodeaux and the Lions are not meshing well, I'm not buying it. I still think they would pick him number 2 overall. So number 3 is where it gets very interesting. Because now as we get closer to the draft, mock drafts are starting to become less about my opinion or someone's opinion and more about we have to start looking at how these teams are going to think, right? So for me, if I'm the Texans, I'm taking an offensive lineman. But the Texans are not taking an offensive lineman. The Texans are going to take Travon Walker. There are too many people with power, or not with power, but with name notoriety and with experience in the NFL, with actual GMs and scouts and owners that are pushing, this Travon Walker guy up the draft. And again, I said I bet you bet on the traits. I don't really see a dominant pass rusher. I didn't see that on tape. You're hoping he can blossom into that, and I don't know if that's worthy of being a top 3 pick, but I'm not Nick Caserio and the Texans. But this kind of conversation was what happened with Justin Fields, but in like going the other direction. Because remember, right around this time last draft, everyone's talking about, oh well, Justin Fields is not going to be in the top 3. He's probably going to slide. And it came out of nowhere. But then Travon Walker just kind of shot up from November to now. And he's looked at that as a top 3 pick. So I'm buying the hype from other NFL teams and draft guys. So, again, he can come in and hopefully develop into an explosive pass rusher to get after those quarterbacks in the AFC South opposite Jonathan Grenard. So, I have the Houston Texans taking Travon Walker here. So as we get to, we're going to actually get down to pick 4, which is going to be the New York Jets. That's not going to change. They're still going to take Sauce Gardner. Now they did try to retool their secondary with DJ Reed and Jordan Whitehead. I think you add another corner to that secondary as well. And, you may be working with something, in that division with those quarterbacks. So, Sauce Gardner is going to be the pick here for the Jets. And so as we get to pick 5, the Giants are going to be on the clock. As you notice, no offensive tackles have gone yet. So I believe that the Giants are actually going to take Ike Ekwonu. I just think he's just a dominant player. He's just bigger and stronger than everyone, as I said before. He has guard experience, and he can slide in that left guard week 1. He could replace Matt Pert at right tackle, as I said before. So I'm going to go ahead and give the New York Giants Ike Ekwonu, the offensive tackle out of North Carolina State. So we get to pick 6, and the Panthers have been struggling at quarterback and offensive line, right? But they've been struggling at offensive line for a long time. So QB is tempting here, but with the team picking up Sam Darnold's option and possibly being interested in Baker Mayfield, I'm going to take BPA, which is best player available. And for me, that's Evan Neal. You need a left tackle for the next decade. They have tried with so many people since Jordan Gross retired, and they haven't hit. They've struggled. The last time they took a left tackle in the first round was 2003, and he became a Pro Bowler and a Panthers Hall of Honor member. So it's Jordan Gross. So, and then you had Ben McAdoo come out and say that Sam Darnold's the starter, and it's like, well, doesn't sound like you guys are looking at quarterbacks. So, and if it doesn't work out, you have a bookend left tackle, and you blow the team up, fire Matt Rule after the season, and you go out and you get a Bryce Young or a CJ Stroud, and just roll with it that way. But I think you have to get an offensive line. You have to get this fixed. So Evan Neal is going to go to the Carolina Panthers, get to pick 7 here, and the Giants are going to be on the clock here. But what's going to happen is we're going to have our first trade here, and I actually have the trade thing active. So with Pro Football Focus, what you can do is you can basically, when you own all 32 teams, it'll tell you that you're not interested in the trade, and it's like, well, I'm all 32 teams GM, so I think I'm interested in trading with myself. You can't tell me that I don't want to trade with myself. So the forced trade thing is on. But as you guys know, I take trades very seriously, and I follow the NFL trade chart and do the math for it, so it looks realistic. And so we're gonna have our first trade here, and it's gonna be the Jets jumping in front of Atlanta because the Jets want to get their pick of the litter at a receiver. So what we're gonna do is we are going to trade with the New York Jets, and the Jets are gonna give up 10. They're going to give up 69, and they're going to come up and get 7. And so I don't even have to force the trade. It's just likely to be accepted because it's a fair trade. So we're going to go ahead and push this trade through. The Jets are going to be on the clock here, and the Jets are actually going to go ahead and take their guy. As I said, Drake London's going to be, I feel like, the top receiver. The man's a giant. Did you guys see him catch that fade in the back of the end zone on his pro day? Ridiculous. But drops can be a little problematic for him, but I think he's a first-round player. The Jets are going to have some giant receivers with Corey Davis and Denzel Mims and Drake London. There's no excuse for Zach Wilson. You got some big targets. You got Elijah Moore, who's a smaller target. You got a decent run game. You have no excuses. If this pick doesn't work out for the Jets, Joe Douglas is going to be looking for another job. So I think you need to add a lot of pieces around Zach Wilson, your quarterback you took last year. So pick 8, we're going to have the Atlanta Falcons on the clock here. And defense is tempting because Atlanta had a really bad defense last year, but they have no receivers whatsoever. They have no one. And so Chris Olave is going to be the pick here to the Atlanta Falcons. 4.3 speed, legit deep threat, touchdown machine, immediate impact. I think he's the perfect pick for Atlanta to come in and be their number 1 receiver, and I think he can do that day one. I think he's that good. So we get to pick 9 here, and it's going to be, of course, Malik Willis. That's not going to change. As I said, in 1.0, you have DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. Get them a strong arm quarterback who can push the ball down the field. With Drew Lock and Geno in the final years of their deals, you have to secure yourself a quarterback, and I do believe he'll take a lot of sacks because he struggles with pressure at times. But outside of that, I think he's going to be a very good NFL quarterback. He has the highest ceiling by far, and it's not even close. He has to get rid of the ball, as I said. I mentioned that with Justin Fields. I said he's going to throw a lot of interceptions, and like I said, he threw double-digit interceptions. I think Malik Willis is going to get sacked a lot if he plays his rookie season, just because he needs to get better, with pressure. So there's no such thing as a perfect prospect, right? So everybody has their flaws. So at 10, the Giants are going to be on the clock here. And the New York Giants, because this was the trade with the New York Jets, so New York to New York, right? The Giants are in an interesting situation here because, Bradbury has a very huge cap hit, but they did take an offensive tackle already. They could take Kyle Hamilton, secure a spot in that secondary. Could take a receiver. They paid Kenny Galladay a lot of money, but it didn't really work out. Kadarius Toney looks like he's going to be a good player. As long as he can stop punching people on the field, he'll be a good player. So they could take a receiver here, but I do believe they're going to go edge rusher. And I think that they're going to prefer Jermaine Johnson just because of his measurables. And George Karlaftis is a good player, but his measurables don't really match up with what NFL coaches like as far as his short arms. So I'm going to actually give them Jermaine Johnson, who's going to make a very big jump in mock draft 2.0 from where he was in 1.0. I just think the Giants have been most successful when they have dominant edge rushers getting after quarterbacks. It's been that way for decades, from LT to Michael Strahan to OCU Inura to Justin Tuck. They love pass rushers, JPP. Like they get after quarterbacks and they win Super Bowls when they do that. So take Jermaine Johnson, violent player, 254 pounds, wins on the edge consistently. FSU transfer, really improved in 2020 and 2021, especially after he came from Georgia. As I said, he's Max Crosby to me. He needs to develop more pass rushing moves, but he's a very powerful rusher. I think the Giants can get better on the defensive line. So at pick 11, we're going to have the Commanders. And I said it in 1.0. I said Terry McLaurin wants some money. And 3 days later, he is not working out with the team. He's not working out, and Debo's not working out for the 49ers. Me personally, here's how I feel. If an NFL owner can cut you in the middle of a contract, you should be able to negotiate in the middle of your contract. That's how I feel. If you can cut me and trade me when I have years left on my deal, I should be able to look you in the face and say, hey, I want some more money and I have years on my deal. That's how I feel, right? I think everybody should have their own power and their own ability to do what they want to do. And so I'll never fault a player for holding out or wanting to get their money because they have to maximize their earning potential for a short period of time. So Garrett Wilson's going to be the pick here to the Commanders, though. Again, you have to secure yourself, get a security blanket, because we have no idea how this Terry McLaurin thing is going to go. He's a dynamic player on their offense. Get the ball in his hands, and he can just be electric everywhere on the field. If they would have secured a deal with Terry McLaurin, I probably would have looked at Kyle Hamilton, the safety out of Notre Dame, to replace Landon Collins. But you need to secure yourself at receiver with an immediate starter right now. And I think that's Garrett Wilson. So we get to pick 12, and the Minnesota Vikings are going to be on the clock here. They're going to take Derek Stingley Jr. If Derek Stingley Jr. could stay healthy, he would go before Sauce Gardner in my mock draft, right? I just think that if he could have stayed healthy and showcase what he did his freshman year over the span of the next 2 to 3 years, or 1 to 2 years, I should say, after the freshman season, he would have been a top 5 pick. But he can't stay healthy, and so that's the only downside to him. He can ball. He's a lockdown corner. He's the kind of corner that will go on the field and say, I want you all game, and follow you and shut you down. The problem with Derek Stingley is you might have that for 11 games out of the 17 you play. Right? Like, imagine you're the Vikings or you're a team and you make the playoffs. So you played 17 games, which means Derek Stingley Jr., you have to expect him to stay healthy for 17 games and then more games in the postseason. That's scary because he's never done it. If he can stay healthy, I'm telling you, he can be the best corner in this entire class. Absolutely. So at 13, we're going to have another trade here. Charles Cross is sliding, and Houston doesn't really need an offensive lineman. They could take Charles Cross after they took Travon Walker, and I think for them this is like a dream scenario because You're like, I can get a right tackle, or I can hold somebody up for some picks, and they can come up and get the tackle. So I think that's what they do here. And it's actually going to be the New Orleans Saints. So the Saints are actually going to give up 16. They're going to give up 98. And they're going to give up 161 to jump up to 13, right? So really 16 and 98, it wasn't enough. So I threw in 161 to even it out fairly. And we're going to offer this trade to the Houston Texans. And the Saints are going to be on the clock here. And the Saints are going to come up and they're going to select Charles Cross, the tackle out of Mississippi State. And like I said, I teased it that his slide would stop because someone was going to go get him. You need to replace Teron Armstead. Athleticism makes up for a lot of deficiencies with Charles Cross, and he's phenomenal with his hands and his ability to move in space. He's a franchise left tackle, in my opinion. And I think someone would go up to get him, and I think it would actually be the New Orleans Saints. So at 14, the Ravens are going to be on the clock here, and the Ravens are going to be looking at interior defensive linemen. So you could potentially be looking at Devontae Wyatt, Jordan Davis. Little early for Travis Jones, and I think his ranking is a little bit high as well, according to Pro Football Focus, but that's neither here nor there. He's a really good player. But I think for the Ravens, Devontae Wyatt is tempting. So is Jordan Davis. But top 15, I think you can move down and get one of those guys. I'm pretty confident in that. So someone is going to come up. We're going to have another trade. Who's going to trade? Well, it's going to be those guys up in Green Bay, Wisconsin. The Green Bay Packers finally do it. They're going to jump up on the 20-year anniversary of their last first-round receiver. The Packers are going to trade up from 22. They're going to give up 59. And they're going to get 14. And they're going to jump up with the Baltimore Ravens to select Jamison Williams, wide receiver out of Alabama. The Packers have to get better at receiver. They just have to. They lost Devontae Adams. Jamison Williams, he's probably going to be healthy week 1. But can you imagine, 9 TDs over 40 yards in 2021, taking 5 10-yard routes, turning them to 70-yard touchdowns, 19.9 yards per reception. Like, imagine that with Aaron Rodgers. I think the Packers jump and they say, we got to get this receiver for 5 years on this 5th-year option for cheap. We got to go get him, and that's Jamison Williams. And really, you want to do that if you're the Packers because, you had in the top, 13 picks, you had Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, and Drake London go. You had to go get your receiver because you can't sit at 22 and think they're going to fall to you. Packers get Jamison Williams, and the whole world is upset because Aaron Rodgers got the best receiver, arguably the best receiver in the entire draft. So for the Eagles, now here I have been mocking the Eagles, Devin Lloyd. And I understand that the Eagles fans were not happy with the Devin Lloyd pick because they don't feel they need a linebacker. And that's okay. I mean, you have TJ Edwards and Kaiser White, but I feel like you can still get better at linebacker. But with the way the board has fallen, there's no way in hell the Eagles are passing Kyle Hamilton. There's no way they're going to let – when your safeties are Anthony Harris and Kayvon Wallace, you're taking a safety. You're taking Kyle Hamilton. He can come down, play the box, erase those tight ends, as I said. He can also play a little bit of center field. Get you a safety and let someone patrol back there. And maybe you can add to your secondary, as you get to pick 18 as well. But pick 16 is going to be the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans are going to take Devin Lloyd. A rangy player, again, who can fill space and is a sure tackler. Success up the middle, team captain, QB of the defense. The Texans, they need to get better on defense, right? You have Laramie Tunsil, you have Brandon Cooks on offense, you have Davis Mills. You have a little bit on offense. On defense, who's playing linebacker? You need to get a linebacker. And so for me, I'm going to give the Texans Devin Lloyd. So if you're the Texans, you've added Travon Walker and Devin Lloyd. Come on. You're building a hell of a defense. Let's not waste Laramie Tunsil. Let's try to win some games. You're building a hell of a defense in Houston with Travon Walker and Devin Lloyd. So at pick 17, the Chargers are going to be on the clock here, and this pick is not going to change. I'm going to actually give them Trevor Penning, just a flexible prospect who can line up at guard and center as well as tackle. Quick get off, especially at guard. Can hold his own in the run game. I like him at guard. That's where I project him. Struggled a little bit with power rushers with inconsistent footwork, but he really grew each year as a starter. And I think for the Chargers, you need to get better on the offensive line. The goal is to keep your quarterback upright while he's still cheap. So you want to add as many pieces to him or for him as well, so he can continue to thrive in this system in LA. So at pick 18, the Eagles are going to get better at corner. They're going to select Trent McDuffie. The only thing again with Trent McDuffie is his size, as I said before, because he has smaller arms, right? And so there are a lot of teams that will say, well, you have sub 30-inch arms, so we don't want you. As crazy as it sounds, that's a real thing. Like, you hear people talking about Kenny Pickett's hand size. That's a real thing. Like, those measurements matter to certain teams. But I don't think they matter to Philadelphia because the arm length is sub 30 inches, but they drafted Avonte Maddox in the 4th round with sub 30-inch arms. His arms are shorter than Trent McDuffie's, and so they don't care. They're just going to draft good players. And so that's why I gave them Trent McDuffie. And you can get a linebacker in the 2nd round. You can get Chad Moom out of Wyoming or Quay Walker out of Georgia, Christian Harris. You can get linebackers. But Trent McDuffie is the best corner on the board right now. So you add Trent McDuffie and Kyle Hamilton to your secondary. You're doing a good job. So pick 19 is going to be the New Orleans Saints. The Saints are actually going to stay here, and they're going to actually take Kenny Pickett, the quarterback, 4-year starter. Pittsburgh's all-time leading passer. I don't think he's sneaky athletic because everybody knows he's athletic. It's not really, a secret. But he's athletic. He does a really good job with pressure around him. But NFL pressure is a little bit different. Players like to swipe at the ball, and that's where his small hands kind of become problematic for you. So weather as well, but he's going to be in a dome in New Orleans, and he would thrive in that situation. They did re-sign Jamison Williams to a 2-year deal, but that doesn't give anyone confidence that he can be the future or that he'll develop into what we think he can be. So I think you just protect yourself and you go ahead and get Kenny Pickett, your quarterback of the future. So at pick 20, it's going to be the Steelers. It's going to be Desmond Ridder, like last mock draft. I don't know if Desmond's a day one starter. I'll tell you guys, I've watched 7 games on the top 5 quarterbacks and on Travon Walker. That's the most games I watched on any players, right? Because these quarterbacks are so hard to read, right? Like, I see Desmond Ridder, and I don't really care about the conference he played in. If you're good, you're good, right? But I see him do it against stellar competition as well, and he's good. But I also see a little bit of accuracy issues. He'll throw the ball hard, and he will throw it at you. You just gotta catch it. He's a little mobile, as well. But his footwork is not consistent enough for me. He doesn't have the mechanics yet to be a true NFL starter. I think you need to sit him maybe for the first year. And that's why you paid Mitchell Trubisky, right? But the best thing for Desmond Ridder is going to be a good run game, and Pittsburgh has that. But I think he can eventually blossom into a starting quarterback in the NFL, a very good one. Just has to get better and more consistent with the small details. So at pick 21, this doesn't change either. The Patriots are going to go ahead and take a receiver here. They're going to go ahead and select Treylon Burks. Again, most yak in college football as well. Get the ball out quickly, let him work. 6'2", 225. As I said, think Juju Smith-Schuster. I didn't want to say think J.J. Arcega-Whiteside because everybody would panic because J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, it was horrible. But think that kind of receiver with experience in the backfield as well. and his size is really big and take advantage of mismatches and go over the top of corners and things like that. So get more weapons for Mac Jones. I do want to talk about these rankings very quickly, though. If Sky Moore played anywhere else, he would probably be this pick. But he played at Western Michigan, and I think he's going to fall to the top of the second round just because of where he played. And then George Pickens will be a first-round pick if he was healthy. I think George Pickens is going to be right at the top of the second round as well. Hell, he might go, in the back of the first where like one of the Kansas City's picks or something like that. Someone jumps in to get him for a fifth-year option or something like that. But I'm going to go Treylon Burks. But these are two very good receivers here. Jahan Dotson's very good. John Mechie's had some injury issues. Christian Watson drops the ball a lot. So you're kind of picking which one you feel is going to be the more consistent one, and now I would go Treylon Burks. So at 22, as I said, the Ravens could wait to get their defensive tackle. They brought back Michael Pierce, so that's a Jordan Davis type player. So I don't think you take Jordan Davis here. Calais Campbell's production is dipping, as I said, and Justin Madubuike hasn't really blossomed. I think Devontae Wyatt can play 5-tech, and get after the passer and stop the run. And so I'm going to go ahead and give them Devontae Wyatt here. Devontae Wyatt before George Karlaftis? Absolutely. Just because I think he fits Baltimore better than Karlaftis does. So we get to 23, and it's Zion Johnson. As I said, Zion Johnson, 6'2", 312, position flex at tackle and guard. Hands are never out of place. Doesn't overextend. Does it against good talent. Just completely buries future top 10, top 15 picks that are going to be coming out next year. Great technique, great pass blocker. His natural spot is guard, in my opinion. He's my top guard, my top interior offensive lineman. Him and Tyler Linderbaum. And I think Arizona, you need to get younger on the offensive line. Especially if you're going to pay Kyler Murray a bunch of money, you need to protect him. So for the Arizona Cardinals, we're going to go interior offensive line. We're going to go ahead and select Zion Johnson, guard out of Boston College. So then we're going to get to pick 24. Dallas is talking about trading up, and then they want to trade down. They're not moving. They're going to stay where they are, and they're going to just get a really good player. And that player is going to actually fill a need for them, and I think that's going to be Kenyon Green, the guard out of Texas A&M. He's going to come in, slide right in at left guard, possibly slide out at left tackle if Tyron Smith can't stay healthy again like it's been for the last 4 or 5 years. So Kenyon Green's going to be the pick here. Clean those penalties up, and he could be a Pro Bowl guard in the NFL. You get to pick 25 here. Again, this isn't changing either. This is going to be Andrew Booth Jr., the cornerback out of Clemson. You need to pair somebody opposite Tre'Davious White. He's a willing tackler. Sometimes he whips because he's the corner, as I said, but great ball skills, tracks the ball down the field easily, limits the penalties. He's good with his hands. He's a very good man-to-man corner. And I think at 25 you're getting a good value pick here if you're Buffalo. So you get to 26, and at 26, the Titans are going to be on the clock here. Titans could use a receiver here. I think if Treylon Burks was here, it'd probably be the pick. They could use a guard, but the 2 guards are gone. They could also use an edge rusher as well. They could take George Karlaftis. What I think the Titans are actually going to do is I think the Titans are going to move. I think they're going to actually trade. So what we're going to do is the Cincinnati Bengals are going to come up. They're going to give up 31. They're going to give up 95 it's for 26. And so we're going to have to force this trade because apparently I don't want to trade with myself, apparently. So we're going to force this trade. Thanks, Pro Football Focus. And we'll force the trade through. The Bengals are going to be on the clock. The Bengals are coming up to get their center. They're coming up to get Tyler Linderbaum. I don't care about measurables. As I say, if you can ball, you can ball. I don't care about what conference you're in. If you can ball, you can ball, right? Tyler Linderbaum can ball. Short arms, a little undersized. But I think Cincinnati is going to be a great spot for him. As I said, move Ted Karras back out to guard. Lyle Collins at right tackle. You're not, Jackson Carman's not stopping me from doing anything. And so Ted Karras goes to replace Jackson Carman. Linderbaum at center, Lyle at right tackle. After that, you have completely retooled your offensive line, and you're going to keep Joe Burrow upright. So Linderbaum's going to be the pick there. I think they jump up to get him to avoid him possibly going to Green Bay. And so I think that's why Cincinnati would go ahead and jump. So at 27, the Buccaneers are on the clock here. And you have Vita Vea, on your defensive line, but you don't really have your Ndamukong Suh. And so Jordan Davis, for me, is incredibly tempting, right? But I don't think that the Buccaneers are going to be picking in the first round. I think that they're going to move. I think they're going to continue to try to add some draft capital. And I personally believe that Travis Jones is more of a fit to Tampa Bay than Jordan Davis personally. So what I believe is going to happen is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to trade this pick. Someone's coming to get a quarterback. So who's coming to get a quarterback? Well, I'm glad you asked. It's going to be the Washington Commanders. So the Commanders are going to give up 47. They're going to give up 113. They're going to give up a fifth next year and a fourth next year. If you wanted to do it to where they gave up maybe 189, you could do that as well. But this balances out according to the trade chart for 27. So we're going to go ahead and force this trade through. So the Commanders are going to be on the clock here. And the Commanders are going to select Matt Corral. So Matt Corral with the 68% completion percentage. He turned the ball over quite a bit in 2020, but he really made it his mission to improve that in 2021. He tries to be a gambler at times instead of taking what the defense gives him, and that's just a rookie thing, right? You want to go for that long ball all the time, but sometimes you can take the 6-yard, curl route or the flat route and let the tight end or the running back get upfield. You don't have to throw it 30 yards down the field every play. You're not going to score a touchdown every play. So he has that in him, the little bit of a gambler. Now he does have an issue, with his size, in my opinion, because he is 6'2", but he's a small 6'2". He's skinny, and so that allows him to be elusive. But if you can get a clean shot on him, it's gonna hurt, right? So I think for him, he has to be athletic in the pocket, and if he is, he's gonna be fine. I think he thrives in like an RPO system, and Antonio Gibson in Washington, along with Garrett Wilson at receiver. Add Matt Corral to that because Carson Wentz ain't nobody's future. I'm sorry. I got it wrong. I thought he would be. He's not. Matt Corral, Antonio Gibson, Garrett Wilson, and you could possibly re-sign Terry McLaurin. After that, your offense is looking kind of explosive. Just take what the defense gives you, and Matt Corral can be a very good starting quarterback in the National Football League. So it's a pretty big jump for the Commanders, but you got to get your quarterback. You've been waiting long enough. So at 28, the Packers are going to be on the clock here. The Packers got their game-changing receiver earlier. It's time to address the defense, specifically their run defense. Again, George Karlaftis is tempting. You want to get after the quarterback. But I think you need to get better with your run defense. The Packers were ranked 30th in terms of yards per carry for opposing running backs. They were 30th. And in 2020, they were 21st. In 2019, they were 25th. In 2018, they were 20th versus the run in terms of yards per carry. They can't stop the run. But lucky for them, there is a run-stopping defensive lineman on the board, and that's Jordan Davis out of Georgia. You have to get better on defense. Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers. You're going to add Jamison Williams to that along with Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. You're going to be fine on offense because you got Aaron Rodgers. This defense is problematic, specifically the front seven. Jair Alexander is good. Darnell Savage is good. But this defense has been problematic up front. So you need to get better up there, in my opinion. So at 29, though, the slide for George Karlaftis officially stops. George Karlaftis is going to go to the Kansas City Chiefs. As I said, he's small arms, limited athletically. But you need to get after these quarterbacks in this division. You got to get after Russell Wilson, Derek Carr, and Justin Herbert. He brings fresh legs to a defense that was ranked in the bottom 3 in terms of sacks per game. So you're bringing a fresh edge rusher in to help you get after the quarterback. So, and that's a need for them. That they really need that. So at pick 30, everybody, looks at, George Pickens or Jahan Dotson. I looked at Jahan Dotson in mock draft 1.0 or possibly Sky Moore. And for me, I wouldn't necessarily reach on a receiver here, right? I wouldn't do that if I were the Chiefs, right? What I would do is just draft the best available player. And that's Nakobe Dean, right? So the Chiefs hit on Nick Bolton last year, but they still need a linebacker. They have no issues drafting smaller players. They took Nick Bolton, who was also 5'11", like Nakobe Dean. Like I said, Dean's a missile at times, and that causes him to get blocked off the screen at times. He's not technically sound, but he's explosive, and he'll fit Kansas City, and they'll be a dominant duo, him and Nick Bolton. They'll be like Patrick Willis and Navarro Bowman if you, shrunk them like 3 inches. But, they will be a really good duo. Willie Gay and Jermaine Carter are not going to be future linebackers, so Jermaine Carter might not even make the team. So you still need to solidify that other linebacker position in that defense. And I think adding Nakobe Dean opposite Nick Bolton or beside Nick Bolton is going to be a very good choice for the Kansas City Chiefs. And really getting him at 30 is actually really good because that's where I think he'll end up falling is, back of the first round. So the Titans are going to be on the clock here. And the Titans are going to select offensive tackle Bernard Raymond out of Central Michigan. So out of the Chippewas, but we're going to take Bernard Raymond. Tight end converted to offensive tackle, super athletic. He moves defenders, doesn't play with finesse. He can easily pull and climb to the second level with no issues. But his experience at offensive tackle is a concern, and I think he projects more as a right tackle for now. I don't think he's like Evan Neal or Ike Mikwanu or Charles Cross who can come in day one. But I do think he's better than Nicholas Petit-Frere and Abraham Lucas and those guys. I think he's far better than all these guys. So that's why I have them taking Bernard Raymond. Now, as far as the Titans' offensive line goes, Taylor Lewan hasn't played a full season since 2017, and Dylan Radunz had the worst offensive tackle pressure rate with 14% in the entire NFL. That's what numbers say. And Tannehill is the second most sacked quarterback in the NFL. You got to get better on the offensive line. You have to keep your quarterback upright. You went and got Robert Woods, so you added your receiver to the team. You have Derrick Henry recovering from injury as well, coming back healthy. Keep your quarterback upright, and you'll be back in the AFC divisional round or the AFC championship again, like you've been for the last few years. So at pick 32, it's going to be the Detroit Lions as we wrap up mock draft 2.0. The Lions are in an interesting spot, right? Because linebacker would probably be is not probably, it is a need. I'd probably go Quay Walker if I were to take a linebacker here out of Georgia. But I'm not. I'm actually gonna take a quarterback. Ironically, I'm gonna take Sam Howell. And I know that some people are, I get it. It's Sam Howell. But before I get to Sam Howell, I want to talk about Jared Goff, right? I don't know if anybody knows this, but Jared Goff wasn't a bad player last year, contrary to what a lot of people think. He completed almost 70% of his passes, which was a career best. The Lions lost close games last year. You still lost 13 of them, but you lost close games. Quarterback really isn't a problem, but it isn't really an asset either, right? It's just kind of like he's just there. Like 19 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. It's not bad at all. But where it gets bad is that over the next 3 years, Goff has a cap hit of $31 million, $30 million, and $31 million. If the Lions cut him after this season, they save $20 million. He's getting cut. Absolutely. He's getting cut. So you need to get Sam Howell. You need to get a quarterback in there. And you want to get your quarterback in the first round. That's why I had the Commanders jump back in, because getting a quarterback in the first round is about 4 to 5 years of cheap labor. That's what this is about. So I know people will be like, well, there's no way Sam Howell could. There is. You want Sam Howell cheap for 5 years. Go get him. That's with anybody in the first round. I like Sam Howell. He's a steady passer. Keeps his eyes down the field when pressure, when all hell breaks loose, he is still focused on getting the ball to his receivers. My gripe with him is he takes care of the ball, but he pats the ball before he throws. And that's dangerous in the NFL, because that ball is getting knocked out of your hand. You're taking too much time to throw the ball. That patting the ball like you're I think it was it may have been Kyle Krabs who does like the Draft Network, which is actually the site that we used to do the mock drafts last year. He said it looks like he's like burping a baby, and that's exactly what it looks like. He's patting the football. Don't do that. Keep your eyes down the field and just get the ball out. But he holds the ball sometimes too long and he gets sacked, like Malik Willis. He's a guy that can sit for year one and let your quarterback do whatever he's going to do, and then year two you go into the season with Sam Howell as your starter. So I am going to give the Detroit Lions Sam Howell. So I had 5 quarterbacks go in the first round, which is unheard of, with these kind of prospects, right? Like there's no Justin Fields or Mac Jones or Trey Lance. There's none of that. These are people who are rated as second round grades that are going in the first round. But you gotta do what you gotta do to get your quarterback. So final look, we started off with Aiden Hutchinson. We had 5 quarterbacks go. We had the Commanders get their offense back together. The Giants get a pass rusher. 2 receivers go in the top 8. Nakobe Dean back in the first round. Karlaftis, Chiefs edging up their defense. The Packers jumping to get a receiver for the first time in 20 years. This was fun. This was Mock Draft 2.0. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I appreciate the likes and the plays and the subs. Make sure you guys smash that subscribe button, hit that like button. Follow me on Twitter as well. We can talk football in the comments as well. I'm here for it. But again, we are 8 days from the draft, y'all. I'm so excited. And that's going to wrap up Mock Draft 2.0. So as always, appreciate y'all for watching, and y'all be good.